What do quantum physics, guarding the net in a women's ice hockey league, and a PhD in medical history have in common? Absolutely nothing, unless you're talking about today's guest. Welcome to Talent Thrives Here, the podcast where we unpack the journeys of exceptional creators, innovators, and disruptors who refuse to stay in a single box. I'm your host, Lance Laforte of the Laforte Talent Group, where we headhunt for our clients across North America. If you've ever sat at your desk wondering if it's too late to make a massive, radical career pivot, or if you've ever wondered what it actually takes to get a story noticed by major outlets, say like the Globe and Mail and the CBC, you're going to want to turn the volume up for this one and listen in. Today we're diving deep into the brilliant, multifaceted world of Marianne Fedunkiw. Marianne, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much, Lance. I'm so happy to be here.
It's great to have you on. Thanks for joining us. I know just for our audience, we've got some technical glitches today, but Marianne has been gracious enough to jump on her phone and jump in. So we have her in voice and in spirit, and away we go. Marianne, your resume reads like an adventure novel. You've spent over 25 years in journalism and communications, covering sports for the Globe and Mail, writing features for the Medical Post, working the rewrite desk at the London Free Press, and you were even on the founding team of the Discovery Channel here in Canada. Pretty big accolades. Then you ran a highly successful communications consulting firm dealing with everyone from quantum physicists to medical I can't even say it, clinicians. Did I get that right? I feel like
Perfect.
I feel like the president. And then you decided to shift fully into creative writing, fiction, and playwriting. That's not just a pivot, that's like a leap off a cliff. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I have the bruises to prove it.
All right, excellent. So I have a question. What was there an exact moment or a realization that pushed you to make that shift? And what has surprised you the most about transitioning from, facts and hard data to pure fiction?
Well, Lance, I would say riffing off of one of your previous guests, Sarah, who was talking about neurodivergence, which was a term that didn't exist in my
Yes.
world when I was growing up. I've always I think I swallowed my twin in utero. So even in university, I was taking like biology and English. And so I didn't make the shift. It's not like I woke up one morning and said, that's it, I'm quitting my day job and I'm going to make a living as an artist. Yeah. The artist thread was always knit through my life, and I would do it sort of on the side. It was that kind of my dirty little secret.
Yeah.
And then it came to the point, in fact, where I had the opportunity to get another job writing academic grants, and I would be paid particularly well for people. Often scientists they like to do their science. They don't want to take time off from their research to write the grants. So they're happy to pay somebody to write the grant proposal. And I thought that was enough. It was draining my creative spirit.
Yeah.
So I said no to a job, and then I just kept going. And fortunately, my dear husband he's my own personal artistic patron. He's the one that, puts the food on the table and the like. And so that was the transition. And then it becomes addictive, because when you're creating something from scratch, whether it's, being on the team that starts the Discovery Channel or doing something creative, it's both frightening and very fulfilling at the same time. Because when you've created that, you go, oh my God, this wasn't here before. And now it is, whether it's a book, a play, anything in the artistic world.
Excellent. Great. I agree with you in the sense that I was a painter for years, and in my early days did magazine and newspaper layout. And, to your point, it was like you go down these rabbit holes of creativity, and it's just, all the other stuff, the noise around you filters out because you're in the zone. And, it's like if you're writing, sometimes the sun probably come up or down and you don't know.
Yes.
Because you're deep down that rabbit hole of into a story. And so your debut novel, A Degree of Futility, takes us into a world you know intimately, the grueling, intense, and often isolating ecosystem of graduate academia and the humanities PhD experience. It struck a major chord, paralleling coverage by The Atlantic and CBC's The Current, Have you always had these? It sounds like you've always had these personal projects rolling on the side, right? It's just it's some people call it side hustle. I almost call it like a creative temperament because it's running 24/7, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I'd say I think of it as sort of like a bunch of creative polyps in a way that, keep growing. I don't ask for them. They just kind of
Right.
emerge. It may
Yeah.
sound a bit flaky, but it's also the way that I process um, major life events.
Right.
So whether it's, what do you do if you've spent years trying to get a tenure track university post
Yeah.
and you figure that's the cherry on the top, and then you're going to be a made person for the rest of your life. Groovy thing,
Right.
you get to teach what you want
Yeah.
largely, do certainly do whatever research you want, and then you graduate into a world where there's like one job and 36 applicants.
Right.
And although I know that you probably handle, job searches where there are 3,000 applicants,
Yes.
but in academia, like what what do you do with a degree in history of medicine when nobody
Yeah.
needs a historian of medicine?
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. That's a conundrum of epic proportions because where do you go?
So it was also a way to vent my spleen. It was a more benign way. It was my going into, a soundproof booth and screaming
Yeah.
for however long the novel is. I don't know, 250 pages worth of screaming.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you got it out.
Well, the other thing that was neat is and this is where it probably parallels the work that anybody does in HR, is through life you meet so many people and characters. And so when you're creating a fictional world,
Yeah.
um, you have to have you have to create those characters, and each character has to have a distinctive voice. Otherwise,
Yes.
we've all read books where you're reading stuff and you're going, wait, who said that? Because
Yeah.
everybody sounds the same. They're presented
Right.
as sort of,
Right.
carbon copies of each other.
Yeah.
So, I had the pleasure of, for instance, my favorite character in that novel is not the female character. Many people sit there and say, "Is that you?" And I say, "No, I feel a lot more in that I have much more in common with a gay male character."
Hmm.
But then you have
Hmm.
the responsibility of I'm neither gay nor am I male. So
Right.
then I had to run for verisimilitude and for authenticity. I gave it to a couple of gay male friends of mine. I said, read this and just see if it rings true, or like, have I
Yeah.
made him too campy? Does he
Yeah.
sound realistic to be a character in a novel about somebody finishing their PhD and
Yeah.
encountering a world that is very um, closed to the hiring at the
Hmm.
time?
Hmm. 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 Yeah. It's interesting you bringing that up. It made me think of a couple of things. One, I know an author who was um, writing this novel about a young lesbian woman in her late 20s as the protagonist. And I said to him, "Why are you writing this? I don't get it. Like, how are you going to speak to her voice? How are you going to?" So it's just like, I don't think he thought all that through, but I found it very entertaining. I'm like, I don't think this is what you should be writing about. I don't think you're going to do. So I said, or get some focus groups and some folks on that know. Anyways, for whatever reason, he built the story around this character, and he wanted to drive the story forward. And I said, don't let me stop you, but
Hmm.
I'm quizzical about about the whole thing. And the other thing that reminded me of was, as you've probably maybe seen this heated rivalry show that's
Oh, yes. Yes.
it blew up, right? It was like they didn't even
Yep.
they produced the first season for about $1. They had no money, no budget, and the thing caught fire. And so now the writers are like, well, we didn't even have a second season ready because we didn't think it was going to go fast past the first season. So they're quickly rewriting and writing it right now, but it's still not going to launch till next year. But what I found interesting with that was the audience, because it's very much it's a romance,
Yes.
and it's a difficult romance, and there's also, as if you're familiar with it, and but I find very interesting that the audience is, it's obviously not, even though it's a hockey drama, the audience is not hockey players. It's women. It's women that
Yes.
love romance novels, and
Yes.
even I know some um, 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 lesbian couples who are fascinated by it. I'm like, well, why? And again, it's like, well, it's
Yeah.
sport, but it's also this thing that they couldn't talk about, and the whole drama of it and everything. And so it's fascinating to see what audience digs certain things. Where they dig in and go, this is our story, this is our thing. Um, but
Yeah,
what I
and I no, I want to say just in reference to that, to your first point about the friend that's writing, where his protagonist is a young lesbian woman in her 20s, and he's a guy, and
yeah
all the rest of how to do that. What happens then is, so let's say I'm writing a novel and I've got two main characters, and one character is basically, my father.
yeah
So I can plop that in, and I know that intrinsically, and I know the voice. I hear the voice in my head. For somebody that's other in whatever form, that means I have to do a lot more research. So that's
way
what
more
I suspect your friend would have had to have done. So, and that's where the research skills, like some of my jumps off various cliffs may
yeah
appear to be into nothingness, but like those visions in cartoons where, jump off a cliff and fall onto a cloud, sort of a softer landing. You're
yeah yeah
still suspended in midair, but
yeah
the research is the cloud. So it just means you do a little bit more work
yeah
to find the voice and, build the character up in that way.
Great. So here's my question. I want to pivot to what are you working on now? Because I remember chatting with you earlier, and you've got a new book that's going to launch this fall. Am I correct? Can you tell us about
Yes,
that?
you are. It's a book that's been long in the making. It's called Bullies and Borscht. And yes, you heard that correctly. It's the red beet soup. And it's a historical young adult novel set in during the Depression and World War II, largely set in Toronto. It starts in Windsor, Ontario, then moves to Toronto, and it follows a young immigrant Ukrainian Canadian mother
Hmm.
who is widowed when her husband dies at age 30, and she's got three little girls,
Well,
and the trials and tribulations that they face growing up ethnic in a Toronto that was not necessarily uniformly kind to
right.
anything other than white Anglo-Saxon Protestants during the period, and how in fact they not only face the challenges head on, but because of the World War II and the opportunities for women, because so many men went off to war, they actually thrive.
Right.
So it's not a
Interesting.
depressing novel.
Right. Even though it starts in the Great Depression, it's not. So I'm curious because I believe you are a Ukrainian heritage. Is this related to a family story or several family stories, or is this completely something you've come up with on your own?
It is inspired. So the foundation, sort of when you're building something with the chicken wire and plaster.
Hmm.
The some of the stories that I used to hear around the kitchen table from my
Right.
mother and aunt,
Right.
who were born in
Yes.
Canada,
Yeah.
um, that forms the chicken wire. But
Gotcha.
then what I learned about anything that's inspired by something is, so you got to, how do I get from here to here?
Yeah.
And I'm not actually sure who was there at that time. So it is fully fictional.
Right.
But for anybody that likes historical stuff, like, if you want to find out what was on at the exhibition in 1936, that's in there.
Right. Right.
So, and
Excellent.
when I was going to the X, or you were going to the X,
Yeah.
it looked a lot more. In fact, I would say like they had a small midway, but it looked a lot more like the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Gotcha. Good. Well, I'm excited. I'm keen to see when it comes out. And will it be like published on? Will people be able to buy it on Amazon, or does it come up? Where would it be retailed? And
It's through one could buy it through Amazon, or there'll be a hardcover edition, but the paperback edition, and then there's going to be an audiobook,
ah,
not an audiobook, but an ebook.
yeah,
But the publisher is Friesen Press. I think it's Canada's only fully owned. I think the Friesen Press is owned by the employees of Friesen Press.
wow, excellent, cool. All right.
And the nice thing about this journey is that I'm doing it with a friend of mine who's also got her book published by Friesen Press. Her name's Kimberly DeWitt, and her book is also set in the Depression, but in the U.S., called After Charlie. So we lean on each other. That's one thing. When you go from working in an environment where there are other people around you
Yeah,
whom you don't go home with, to going home to whether your hovel or your mansion to write, one thing that's challenging for me is the isolation of writing, because I'm an outgoing person. And so I always have to go out, into the universe to go and meet more people because everybody ends up sort of in a gigantic index card list in my head.
Yeah.
So that when I'm creating characters, I can sit there and, take a piece of this person, a piece of that person, and how that person looks or spoke, and they come into an amalgam.
Right. Right. Excellent. Cool. Um, I'm just conscious of time in this ADHD shattered world that we live in. If people want to connect with you, how do they? Are you on LinkedIn, or is there a website they should go to? How, if someone wants to reach out and talk about books or about writing or your next project, where should they reach you at?
Sure. I have a website which is I write under my initials, which are M as in Marianne, P as in Pauline, Fedunkiw.com. I am on LinkedIn as well.
Great.
And I am dipping my toe into the 21st century. I just opened an Instagram account, but I need a teenager to help me maximize that because
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, we'll say I'm sure we can round up some teenagers. Yeah. Good.
I'm very good at sharpening my quill pen to write, but the rest of it is all it's a wondrous mystery to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's not to worry. I was at a conference last night. One of the guys was talking about staying in your lane. Like, what's your superpower? Because he said too many people get distracted with shiny objects and all sorts of things, and
Hmm.
they end up not doing what they were supposed to do because they're now fascinated by all these other things. So, probably best to outsource that to somebody else to do it, and keep writing great books. So,
Yes.
thanks, Mariana. Really, pleasure to have you on the show. And for our listeners, please like, share, comment, and let us know if you want to come on the show and talk about what you're doing. But thanks again, Marianne. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing um, uh, Borscht when it hits the Bullies and Borscht when it comes out. Thanks again.
Thank you, Lance. It's been a pleasure.